Welcome back to the Tavern, World Builders. Today we're talking about the Disney movie WALL-E. WALL-E.
Oh, yeah.
We will be talking in robot voices the whole time, so be warned. And also be warned, if you have never seen this movie, here there be spoilers. Grab an ale, zero proof always available, and pull up a chair. I'm Emma, your friendly barkeep, along with Allison.
Hello.
And Christiana.
Hi.
And we are so happy to have you here. Cheers!
Cheers.
Cheers.
Also, we have just noticed that due to our recording schedule and publishing schedule, this is coming out on December 25th itself. So,
What?
Merry Christmas for all of you for whom this is a holiday. Happy holidays for all of you for whom this is not a holiday and just a regular day. We hope you're having a lovely winter season celebrating whatever is most near and dear to your heart and eating a lot of good food.
I was just going to say, I hope at the very least you're eating a lot.
Yes, that's the
And
best
the heart
part.
goes out for those who have a tougher time during
Yeah.
this season, because we know there are those people as well, and that you enjoy our content that we have for you on this day.
Yeah, may this be a bright spot, hopefully. Hopefully we're not making it worse.
I mean, it is WALL-E, and WALL-E is it's
So
not Christmas,
heartwarming.
but it is heartwarming.
It is heartwarming.
Yeah.
Hey, he has the Christmas lights in his little bunker. I
Oh,
think
he
that
does have
counts as
Christmas lights in his bunker.
Yeah.
For anybody who has not seen this movie, let me tell you what happens. In the 29th century, Earth is a garbage-strewn wasteland due to an ecocide caused by rampant consumerism, corporate greed, and environmental neglect. So this is due to happen any day now in our timeline. Humanity was evacuated to space by the megacorporation By and Large on giant spaceships 700 years prior, leaving trash-compacting robots to clean up the planet. All but one of the robots have stopped functioning. The last remaining active robot, WALL-E, which stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class, has developed a personality. WALL-E remains active by salvaging parts from inactive robots with his pet cockroach, Hal, as his only companion.
Oh, I didn't know it had a name.
It has a
I
name.
didn't
I don't think it's
know
ever
either.
mentioned. I think it's just in the credits. But yeah, his name is Hal. WALL-E's routine of compressing trash and collecting interesting objects is broken by the arrival of a robot called Eve, extraterrestrial vegetation evaluator, which scans the planet for sustainable life. WALL-E is smitten by the sleek, futuristic robot, and the two begin to connect until Eve goes into standby mode when WALL-E shows her his most recent find, a living seedling. Eve takes the plant, with WALL-E clinging on, to its mothership, the Starliner Axiom. In the centuries since the Axiom left Earth, its passengers have degenerated into helplessness due to microgravity and laziness, with robots catering to their every whim. Captain McCrae sits back while his robotic AI autopilot Helm, nicknamed Otto, pilots the ship. McCrae is unprepared for the positive probe response, but discovers that placing the plant in the ship's holodetector will trigger a hyperjump back to Earth so that humanity can begin recolonization. Otto reveals that there is a secret no-return directive that orders them not to return to Earth on account of toxicity levels making Earth unlivable, quote-unquote. WALL-E, Eve, and McCrae overpower and deactivate Otto and make the hyperjump back to Earth, where humans and robots turn the ravaged planet into a paradise and the plant grows into a mighty tree.
Yay!
So heartwarming.
So cute.
So sweet. First up, Happy Hour. So we had all seen this movie before. It's a classic.
Mhm.
It's also old now, isn't it?
Yes, it came out in 2008.
Oh my goodness. So long ago.
A
Yeah.
long time ago.
16
We're
years
old.
ago. Oh my
We're
goodness.
old.
We're old. How does this movie hold up? How did it stand up to a rewatching?
It was interesting watching it as an adult, because technically I guess I was a kid as a teenager when I saw this first.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things for adults to catch that I don't think kids
Yes.
would pick up on that I found really fun. Just like subtle stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like we also need to address the fact that it's really fat phobic.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we were texting
not
about
remember
this
that
as we
either,
were
yeah.
watching this. We're like,
Yeah. I
yeah.
forgot how
It's-
kind of
Yeah.
problematic that
It's
is.
bad. Yeah.
It's not as egregious as it could have been. It's not like WALL-E looks at them and goes, "Oh, you're overweight. That is inherently bad." But
But the
there
narrative
is this kind of
the
narrative is very, very much heavily implying that like that's a negative character trait and that they're
Yeah.
overweight because they're lazy and that's
Yeah.
a bad thing and they're not really people anymore. And, like,
Yeah.
it was a rough watch in that sense.
Yes.
Coming back as like a full-fledged adult and being like, "Oh,
And they do mention something
mean.
about
Yeah.
how living in space affects your bones or something. And I actually think a way better show that portrays this is The Expanse, where
Yeah.
people who live in space are like a lot taller and thinner.
You get like stretched out
Because
of the
you
lack
don't
of
have the
gravity and
compression.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's not realistic, but it's also a cartoon.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just that, it's the shorthand of like fat equals lazy equals bad,
Yes.
which is problematic for so many reasons that we could spend,
Yeah.
a whole 4 hours talking about. But just, that's not cool.
No.
Yeah. We across the board don't agree with that representation, I think is the fair thing to say. It's still a sweet story though.
Yes.
Like there's still a lot to take from it, but
Yeah.
that's the one thing where I think we're all like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah.
And it's
Why
also
was that the rude?
definitely not surprising for the era in which it was made, like
Exactly,
the early 2000s. This is maybe not quite early 2000s, but it's still of that time period where like
It would have been being
was
developed
even
and
worse.
storyboarded
Yeah.
at the height of that. Yeah.
The early aughts are notorious for the really awful, like fat phobia, like super skinny idealism, which is still a problem now, but like it was even worse back then. So it's not surprising, but it's still not good that this is such a big part of the movie.
I watched it with my spouse, and he was laughing because when Eve is all like locked up with the plant and he's dragging her around with like a string of Christmas lights. And then they watch the sunset and he tries to like pry her arm from against her body
hold her
so
hand.
he could hold
Yeah.
her hand.
Yeah.
It's like, that's exactly you whenever I take you out in public. Like, he's like, I'm just so enamored and you're just like all stiff and grumpy. And I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, that's
I
absolutely
really love
me.
how the animators make such human emotions obvious in these robots. Like Eve is a cone, basically.
Yeah.
And she has like a digital face, but you still get so much from her. I love how annoyed she seems with Wally at like, Wally,
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
cute.
I think that this is now time to talk about the meat of the movie. So let's dive into Tavern Talk. So we are going to analyze this movie through the lens of genre, which we had a bit of a hard time placing exactly what genre this is going to fit
I
in.
feel like it fits children's movie the best. But it is also kind of an environmental sci-fi or maybe eco-fiction or maybe cli-fi, and I sort of like looked up the differences and I was like, well, there's some from here and some from here. And so yeah.
Question about genre right off the top, and I think maybe this is a question for Allison, who's a little bit more ingrained in like children's fiction and middle grade fiction. Do you find that genre is more nebulous in children's media than adult media, or is it very similar?
Ooh, that's a good question, Emma.
Thank you.
So my specialties are sci-fi, fantasy, mystery, and horror. And I find those are still all present in middle grade fiction. Sometimes horror will overlap with other things, like often fantasy and horror overlap. But there's definitely still those four genres exist.
Yeah, I meant just in terms of like the fact that this is pulls from so many different genres. I'm kind of wondering, is that a product of it being like a children's movie? Like, does that tend to happen where the genres are more blended? Or is that just a Wall-E thing?
Publishers often just categorize children's fiction as like middle grade fantasy, or like you don't get those subgenres that you do in adult fiction. So I do think maybe you're onto something that maybe it's more just leaning into for children, but has elements of some of these other things.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot about the ecosystem. Like that's for sure the big message of Wall-E. Like the planet has been destroyed, the ecosystem is destroyed, it's all trash. Them finding a living plant is like a huge miracle that then triggers the whole rest of the story.
If it was true eco-fiction or climate fiction and kind of discussing human impact on Earth, it would be about greenhouse gases and the oil industry and things like that. Instead, I think they were really smart for a children's movie using garbage.
Yeah.
That's something that's like super visible and super tangible for a kid to understand, oh, there's too much garbage. and it's hurting the earth. Like, that is way easier to comprehend than, well,
CO2 levels are rising.
The CO2 levels are rising and methane from factory farming kind of thing.
It is kind of interesting because we did all first watch this as kids, so maybe we can like, because I mean, I guess I wasn't like a young child. I would have been like 15 probably when I first watched it.
Yeah.
And I think those themes still came through. Like, I definitely picked up on like, oh, like the garbage, the like people are overly reliant on technology and not.
And I mean, kids are way smarter than we give them
totally.
credit.
Oh yeah.
So I
kids
should
pick up on a lot. But yeah, it is definitely like, I think that is a good thing for like children's literature, is not to dumb it down, but like, you know, pick one key visual or one key thing. Like, you don't have to go in 1,000 different ways of explaining, like, oh, you know, the plants all died and it's just like garbage. Garbage is a perfect metaphor, the perfect symbol.
Yeah.
Adults will then extrapolate from there about what must have happened, but for kids, they can just, you know, that's enough to just be like, oh yeah, garbage bad, garbage.
Too much garbage.
Planet.
I shouldn't litter. I should be,
you
know, more thoughtful about this. Like, that's a really easy message to, like, don't throw my trash on the ground. Which is also still an inherently good thing to teach kids. Right? So
so like themes of eco-fiction are stories that capture the essence of natural ecosystems, which I'm not really sure that this movie was doing.
No.
And then environmental issues, or the relationship between humanity and their physical environment, it did.
Definitely, yeah.
So so that's why we're kind of calling it environmental sci-fi.
Yeah, it's like remove humans from the earth, and it's not good for either.
Yeah, and then the human accountability to the environment, that we are responsible for this. Yeah.
Which definitely. We should say, because we didn't outline it specifically in the description, but for anybody who hasn't seen this movie, humanity on the ships, nobody is like walking around. Everybody is using like hover chairs to get around, which is also slightly problematic outside of just the fat phobia, but like also maybe a little bit of ableism. Like, this, your mobility device is inherently bad and lazy, and it's like, that's also not, it's maybe not as bad because it's not, but I don't know, it's still kind of a little bit icky of just being like, oh, okay, that's, there's just some ickiness there, I think.
Yeah. Certainly.
That can be the hard thing, though, is when you're trying to make a point in the broadest terms, you can lose some of that nuance. Like, there's no nuance about, like, you know, the use of this technology or humanity's condition. It's very black and white. So I think maybe that's where you kind of, that can be the stumbling block of using those big metaphors.
I feel like they could have had people walking around on the ship, but maybe just like bored. Like, they just didn't have a purpose or something, you know?
They could have had people who just, like, walk around with their phones glued to their face all day kind of thing, instead of it being like, and they're all incredibly overweight and they use mobility aids and they're also watching things on their iPad, and all their meals come in the form of a milkshake because they're too lazy to even chew. You know, like, it was like, it got far enough where I was like, okay, that's a bit much. Yeah.
We didn't have to go that hard and make all of these connections. I think that's why it's also really important to examine your own biases while you're writing, because even if you don't intend for that to come across, if you have the internal fat phobic belief that like fat equals lazy, that's going to come across whether you intend for that to be your message or not. So like, you also got to interrogate
and we all do have those biases.
Totally.
Every single person.
Yeah. You just got to know what yours are, and that's why again we always champion beta readers, because other people reading your work will pick up on biases that you don't see, because,
might not be aware of.
Some stuff with Cli-Fi is just such a weird word to say, but it's short for climate fiction.
I have a list here of things, and as I was listening, and I'm like, I don't know if this fits.
Let's see. We'll be the judge of that.
Centered around climate change, so that's sort of
indirectly
make it about garbage as opposed to, but it's basically a metaphor.
Yeah, that would be a logical conclusion.
Economic or social injustice.
Nope, not at all.
You know what? I would think there is some element of economic and social injustice, because instead of humans doing the work, they're building robots and making them doing it.
Maybe.
So, like, it's
I
not
think it
quite
could
the
have
same,
gone-
but I think there's...
It's not a big theme. It's not.
I think they
Yeah.
could have gone in that
Clear.
direction if they had, like, explored, like, are we exploiting these robots or whatever, but I don't know.
Well, they have a whole robot insane asylum, more or
True.
less.
Yeah, I thought that was
Pardon
so
me
funny.
if that's not the
Yeah.
correct verbiage, but, like, they have a whole
Yeah.
facility for robots who they deem aren't acting appropriately. I think there's, like, a
Yeah.
tiny little undercurrent. I don't think enough for it to say it's a big trope or a big part of the story, but there is
Yeah.
a tiny bit of that.
See, and I thought where you're going to go is because I think maybe there could be a hint at it of, like, when all humanity left Earth, did all the humans get to go? Or did the poor humans
Yeah.
stay on
Yeah,
Earth and all die? You know, like that.
By and large, probably wouldn't sponsor all the poor
Everybody.
people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But of course, that's also not touched on in this
No.
particular movie.
Because it's a kid's movie.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
a
also
little
only like an
heavy.
hour and a
Yeah.
half, and you only have so
Yeah.
much time and so many things
Yeah.
you can explore. Yeah.
Humanity's hubris is a big thing in Sci-Fi, which is subtly implied that
Yeah.
we garbaged our planet to death.
Yeah. We were so
And
busy
then just jet it
consuming.
off like, whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. Hope, which there's definitely
Definitely
in.
hope.
Yeah.
That is a hallmark of children's literature, is that it is
Aw, I love
definitely
that.
hopeful. And then common settings for Sci-Fi are like abandoned cities, remote
Check.
Arctic regions,
Yeah.
deserts, islands. So we don't really get. We have the sort of abandoned city that
Cities,
Wall-E
for sure.
is in,
Yeah.
for sure. And then extreme weather events because climate
Which we
change.
also get.
Ah.
Which you also have
Yep.
those storms
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Wall-E,
See, Wall-E has to kind of
bunkers down
Yeah.
during. So there are some Sci-Fi elements. There's some
Yeah.
eco-fiction, some environmental themes. There's also like dangers of consumerism
Oh,
and the large
totally,
corporations.
Yeah.
And then humans' obsession with space exploration as a solution to the environmental problems that we've
Yeah.
created. Those were like my own notes that I couldn't fit into
Yeah.
any of these other
I
ones.
think
that I'm like,
the humans' obsession with space exploration as a solution goes right into hubris, like
Oh, yeah,
humanity's
that's
hubris,
true.
Yeah.
where it's like,
Yeah.
well, we don't have to worry about saving the Earth.
We'll
Screw
just
every other
leave.
species
Yeah.
that's here. We'll just
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah. It does make me sad for all of the other because you don't see any animals. Like they didn't bring any
No.
animals on the ship.
Other
it's not
than the
like this is
cockroach.
Noah's Ark. Yeah, the cockroach is the one thing, which is cute. I love the little cockroaches can survive anything.
yeah, I like that
Yeah.
the cockroach was the only thing
Yeah.
alive. Because
Yeah.
But it's like all the whales are dead, all the tigers are dead, all the dogs are dead, which is very sad. And-
Yeah. Mind you, we
Uh,
didn't see any ocean shots. It's kind of a
That's
desert.
true.
We see the ships
Yeah.
abandoned in the port.
You know, I
That
bet that
no
there
longer
are no
has
more
water.
oceans. I would assume all the
Yeah.
oceans are also just filled with trash, and so they're probably just like solid trash oceans. Which
So
is-
it's just what's already happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This will be happening next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't laugh, but if
You
I
got
don't,
to.
I'll
Sometimes
cry.
you have to. Yeah. And then there's also some more general sci-fi tropes in this, because of course it's also
It's
sci-fi.
also sci-fi. It's sci-fi, it's environmental, and it's
Yeah.
children's. It's got these
Yes.
three things
So
intersecting.
many. There's a cute robot that is
Of
a
course.
sci-fi. There's two
Cute
cute. There's
robot.
many cute robots.
There are
I
many.
So many cute robots.
particularly love when they get on board the ship and there's the little like cleaning inspector robot
Yes.
who has to like check down everything and coming into the ship to make sure there's no contaminants, and he's just like scrubbing, or I don't know, I'm gonna call him he, scrubbing things, and like Wall-E is like making dirt tracks on purpose to like bother
Yeah.
him, and then he learns that he can like jump off of the path that is laid out for him, and he like goes rogue and starts
just
cleaning
following
everything.
Wall-E to
Aw.
clean him. It's
Yeah.
so cute. I
So
love
My
that robot.
favorite is the little secretary robot where they're like typing with the chicken fingers, almost like, you know how when people don't really know how to type and they just use
Yeah.
one index finger at a time,
Yeah.
just kind of slowly
Hunt and
typing.
peck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Wall-E teaches them to wave, and they just like realize they can use their hand to wave. I thought that's my favorite part. And then when he's escaping and the secretary robot just looks at him and does the little wave, I was like, oh,
so
so
cute.
cute.
And they're, Allison, like you pointed out earlier, they're so good at making expressions through these little robots, especially because for most of the movie, like until you really get involved with the people on the ship, there's no dialogue. Like it's just Wall-E
Yeah.
and Eve just say their names, like Pokemon, in like various tones, but there's like no dialogue, and yet you still have such a clear idea of like what's happening and what they're feeling, and it's
Yeah, it's really well
good
done.
animation. It's lovely. Evil AI. So in our last recording, we talked about some good AI aboard the Wayfarer. In this, we've got your classic evil AI.
Trope. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to point out, Ebba, you mentioned that the cockroach is named Hal, and I never noticed that because I call the evil coxswain of the ship the AI. I'm like, yeah, that's Hal. That's just a different version of Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah.
That's funny.
So it's funny. I feel like the name of the cockroach is a little nod to that. So
one trope that I don't know that I'll ever get sick of is I do love a AI being evil to protect humanity from itself.
Yeah,
like it's
too.
just such a good trope. It just feels so earned. Like we deserve it. Like we should be enslaved by an AI. We've earned this. So I don't know. I love that trope. I love when it shows up in fiction.
Yeah.
It's just very fun.
Me too.
Generation ships. So we see like this has been around for 700 years. So this is clearly
I love generation ships. They're so interesting, especially because we just don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah.
Like make an ecosystem that will function for generations is not a thing that we are able to do right now. And so I think that's really interesting technology that I want to exist.
And then the next one is corporate domination is a sci-fi trope, which I think is interesting in WALL-E because in WALL-E, by and large, is not, I don't think, and I could be wrong, you guys can talk about what you see in the narrative for this, but it's not explicitly like the bad guy. Like by and large is kind of the savior of humanity. Like they launched these ships, they're the ones who bring it back. They're like, so they're kind of hinted at being evil, or you can draw the conclusion of it because of course we know consumerism is bad and they're buying things from by and large, and like by and large is probably the reason the planet went destructo in the first place. But it's like the movie never really says that. The movie never really challenges
I feel like I just
the
read a lot of things into it, like aren't all like their food and drink is all labeled with on the ship labeled with by and large their name, and so it's sort of implied that by and large is still out to make money and in control of everything. And that is evil. So I, as an adult, read by and large and evil. I don't know if you would necessarily as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also don't know if Disney is interested in critiquing
corporations.
It's Disney.
There might be a vested interest.
It is subtly in there, though, for sure.
Or that is a conclusion that is easy to draw and perhaps is the right conclusion.
Yes.
But it does not, is not the focus of the bad guy is made a little bit more simple in that it's, the autopilot that won't let them go back as opposed to the corporation itself, maybe, in terms of like what we explicitly see.
And then you have the post-apocalypse is a sci-fi trope. I don't know if I would call this it technically is post-apocalyptic.
I think it's post-apocalyptic for sure.
But when I think of post-apocalyptic, I think of like Mad Max or something like
where there's still like factions of people.
Yeah.
I think it's still post-apocalypse. For sure.
I would agree. I think it's very much post-apocalypse. I think of things like I Am Legend, where it's kind of only one person, but then there's like zombie-esque things happening.
Yeah.
But a tiny, tiny pet peeve of mine. How are those giant billboards still running and displaying ads? For some reason,
advertising
watching
never
that
energy.
Watching that as an adult, I'm like, so you have solar energy for the billboards, but nothing else? But then I immediately thought,
that makes complete sense.
that's exactly what we would do because we're jerks. Yeah,
selling stuff is of utmost priority. Of course, those the last 700 years.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So. That's very depressing. I didn't think about that, but that's very funny, actually, that the ads are still running. And then, there is almost an I Am Legend, like, only one left of, like, WALL-E being the only
one
surviving robot.
At least in this giant area. Maybe there are other robots
if
on
it is
Earth,
a global thing, and maybe they fix some of the robots when they get back. Like, maybe they can repair some of these other little WALL-Es or something.
and remove more trash from the planet.
Yeah.
Well, not really remove it.
What they should do? They should just
compact
fill
it.
the by and large ships with trash and then shoot them
And
back
then
into
shoot those out.
space.
Yeah.
And then make it someone else's problem.
Yeah.
My hot take is that I think as people, we should just be launching our trash into space. Like, I don't care about space littering, and I think that would be fine. If we could figure out a better way of launching, I know launching rockets is very environmentally bad, but if we could figure out a way to just like catapult it into space or something, I think that would be a great
We
solution.
just need to build a giant catapult.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Scientists,
size
get on
of
it.
a
Where
country.
are the space flinging
We
catapults?
need
problem.
space catapults right now.
I think we should build one of those in our world building workshops.
Space
Plug
catapult.
for our Patreon world building workshops where we build stuff and may or may not build
Where we
space
build the
catapult.
perfect space catapults.
We're devolving into nonsense though, so I am going to say that this is time for proprietor's pick. Allison, what book do you have for us, and does it contain a friendly little robot, which I know is your favorite
I do
trope?
love AI and robots, both evil and friendly, to be fair. I like both.
Allison loves all
I had a
robots.
really hard time finding a novel like Wall-E, partly because sci-fi in particular does not sell well in middle grade and YA markets.
Really?
So like I was looking kind of for a middle grade book and I did not end up finding one. I don't know why it doesn't sell well, because I love sci-fi. I like we are going to be talking about a YA sci-fi later on in the season. So excited about that. But yeah, apparently it doesn't.
I kind of wonder if it's one of those self-fulfilling prophecies of like, oh, it didn't sell well, and therefore we're not going to make and market
Probably.
it, and then nobody buys it, and
Yep.
then
And then it's just sort of a cycle of this doesn't exist because we made it not exist.
Yeah,
But anyway, but I ended up picking, which Emma is going to approve of, a cozy sci-fi. A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers.
I love that book.
Which we just talked about another one of her books in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Centuries before robots of Panja gained self-awareness, laid down their tools, wandered en masse into the wilderness, never to be seen again, they faded into myth and urban legend. Now, the life of the tea monk who tells this story is upended by the arrival of a robot, there to honor the old promise of checking in. The robot cannot go back until the question of what do people need is answered, but the answer to that question depends on who you ask and how. They will need to ask it a lot. Chambers' series asks, in a world where people have what they want, does having more matter? So I have actually read this book, and I did enjoy it, and it's cozy, people. So I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it, and it's about this robot and a tea monk. Which I love
a tea
the idea.
monk is just so sweet, and the
tea
character
monk.
is
Cute.
lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of have a relationship with each other, and the robot is like following the monk around, trying to find the answer to its question. It's very cute.
Yeah.
So it's got the Wall-E cuteness vibes. The cozy vibes. So yeah, check that one out. And it's a nice, quick, easy read because it's a novella.
Yeah, it's nice and short. And
Yep.
you can buy it on our bookshop.org page
You
if
can.
you want to get a copy to read it. And with that, we are at last call. We're going to outline some concluding thoughts and questions that we think can be learned from Wall-E and applied to your own world building. Allison, what do you take away from this movie that you think we can apply to building a world?
I love watching kids' movies and reading kids' books. So I always appreciate a story that has things for me as an adult, even though it's intended for children. Children are the target market. So I think Wall-E works great for kids because it's about two robots falling in love and getting separated and the ensuing adventure. But there's also so much subtle stuff going on that's also meaningful for adults as well. Particularly, I noticed in this watch through the loneliness that Wall-E experiences at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. When he tries to hold his own hand, he sees
Yeah.
the people on TV holding hands. He tries to hold his own hand.
Yeah.
And I was
Oh
like,
my
this
goodness.
is so sad for me as an adult. And I think kids can understand the concept of loneliness, but they are also often, at least if you're in a healthy environment, surrounded by people, like your parents or your guardians, school, so surrounded by kids. I don't think you can totally grasp the concept of being alone on a planet. You know, I don't even think we as an adult can totally.
Yeah, I was going to say totally alone on a planet.
Yeah, but that just really hit me. And then like the environmental themes, the hubris of humanity, like we mentioned before, just these big themes that really hit me as I was watching it. You still want your target audience to be whatever your target audience is, but it's nice to keep that, oh, if I'm an adult reading this, what might I take away? How might this impact me? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Christiana, what do you take from Wall-E that you think we can apply to world building?
I think I'm going to go back in on garbage and using a really appropriate metaphor, specifically if you're writing to a younger audience. Like I said, greenhouse gases, the oil and gas industry, the fishing industry, and the microplastics that are left in the ocean. Those are some like really big concepts that I think even if it was a movie made for adults, sometimes you have to compress a bigger issue into one just really tangible metaphor. I think that goes across genres and across the age group of the audience that you're reaching for. You can go way, 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 way too in depth sometimes. And seeing mountains and mountains of garbage that are as tall as a skyscraper, you don't need to say that that's a bad thing. Wall-E never actively says, this is bad, right? You just look at it and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's a problem kind of thing. So being able to compress these really, really big concepts and issues, especially if you're discussing climate fiction or eco-fiction or things like that, being able to take it into one really, really tangible example, I think Wall-E is a masterclass in that.
Mountains of Garbage is also so interesting visually. Like, it's a good choice for animating, you know?
Yeah. It's also very interesting as somebody who lives in Winnipeg, which is very flat, and some of our only hills are garbage hills. They're literally garbage used to be dumps that now grass has grown over and are just part of the city. It feels very ironic.
we have a hill that people snowboard on that is
it's
garbage.
a garbage hill.
Yeah.
It's not
literal
loose garbage.
hill.
It's garbage that's been compacted and covered in dirt and is now a hill, but it's still there. The core is there.
Really from Winnipeg if you didn't catch a random like tin can sticking up from your tobogganing hill?
Garbage.
No.
Yeah, just Winnipeg things. I'm going to reiterate some advice that we talked about earlier, but it is to keep an eye out for biases that appear in your world building. I think we're more aware of how biases can show up in like plot and stuff like that, but sometimes we think of world building as maybe a little bit more of a neutral thing or something that isn't affected as much by our personal worldviews and beliefs. But like everything you create, what you think is going to be there. So in Wall-E, some of the world building is fantastic. A lot of the world building is fantastic, but there's also some stuff that is not as fantastic. I think because, you know, of the attitudes of the people who made it. So keep an eye out for that. Think about what you're putting in there unconsciously. And sometimes, we touched on this in our last episode, but sometimes interrogating those biases can really make your world building stronger because you can play with norms that you might not think of as being something that can be changed. Sometimes we think of, you know, things that we're used to as being, oh, well, this is the universal constant. But if you start to examine, why do I feel this way? What could be different about that? Then you start to explore more interesting things and get ideas for the ways the world could be different, which when you're writing sci-fi and fantasy is great because you can make the worlds as weird and as different as you want. So just keep an eye out for those biases, get other people to read your work, and it'll make you a better world builder.
Yeah. I think a lot of people fall to stereotypes because it's a heuristic cue, it's a shortcut in our mind to the message we're trying to send, but pause and wonder why that's a cue and if there's another way to do that.
Yeah, totally. This brings us to closing time. We'd love to stay longer, but these crumbs are not going to sweep themselves up. Much like Wall-E, we have garbage to stack into very high piles. Thank you so much for joining us at the tavern. If hands-on world building is something that interests you, then make sure you check out our world building workshops. These are bonus monthly episodes where we build a different element of a world every session. These are available for patrons at our $5 and up tiers at patreon.com/worldbuilderstavern. This month's episode, which is already up and ready for listening, is on building weather. So very Sci-Fi environmental fiction adjacent. So check that out. You should also check out our description for a link to help a Palestinian family escape Gaza. You can find us on our website, worldbuilderstavern.com, which has links to our TikTok, Discord, and our bookshop.org page, where you can buy books that we talk about on the podcast, supporting both us and an indie bookstore. Yay. We hope to serve you here again soon, but until next time, and next year, scram.
Bye.
Get out of here, and happy holidays, I guess.
Catch you in 2025.